You're listening to the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast, where we empower women of faith to identify, acknowledge, and accept their doubts and limits and beliefs in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Welcome back to another episode of the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast. I am here with Coach Sophia Casey. Hey, Coach Sophia.
Hey, Coach. Hey.
Hey. So just a little bit of background, you guys. I told y'all that I was taking this coaching coaching course over the summer into last year so that I can get my credentials. And Coach Sophia is my mental coach. And when I tell y'all the first day I met her in that first class, I was like, oh, I already know we are meant to be. I hope I was like, I knew you were assigned to me before, but I hadn't met you in the first half of the course. And so I was just like, oh, okay, but then I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Like, you knew who to connect me with. You knew to connect me to her. I was so excited. And then I got you throughout the whole thing. I was like, I'm so winning. So thank you so much for being here.
You are so welcome. I'm so grateful to be here. I love talking to you. I love talking to you when you were in class, and I love talking to you outside of class. We've done some clubhouse stuff together.
Yes.
It's really cool rocking with you for sure.
Yes, you are just amazing. And so I wanted to get you on the podcast to definitely, have this conversation, to talk about all things, ease and flow is your motto. That's your mantra. And, we definitely going to get into that and all things Coach Casey and what that looks like and what you're doing for, students like me and also clients that you have, and how you're just creating this legacy and this empire for yourself. So we will get in to that a little bit later. But first, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Yes. So I like to share that I'm an international award-winning speaker, corporate trainer, executive life coach, and two-time best-selling author. I'm
Come on now.
All of those titles. I'm also proud of my titles as mom, wife, caregiver, and mentor coach. As you just mentioned, I'm proud of that too. I'm a dinosaur. I started a long time ago, and I'm proud to say I'm a dinosaur. I am proud to be in my right 50s, and I've been doing this work for quite some time. When I started in this coaching industry, it wasn't called coaching. We didn't even know that word. We called it mentoring, which was an error, but we called it everything else but
right.
coaching. And but I knew that I loved supporting people around goal attainment, even above circumstances. And not from a place of like grinding, like, oh, grind it out. Like, I hate to even see like these memes and things that I see all the time that says, wake up, time to grind. And I'm like, rise and grind. I'm like, I don't want to grind.
Can I wake up first?
Yes, I don't want to grind.
Yes. So this right here will be a great question. So usually the first question I always ask is, how has self-doubt showed up in your journey? And so even in that moment of saying like, the business that you were in transitioned multiple times, I'm sure, from when you started until now, right? Like, and so yeah, so let's talk about that. How has self-doubt showed up in your journey?
Goodness, that is such a great question. I have had self-doubt show up through the entire journey. And even today, having been a coach and a corporate trainer and head of HR and all these wonderful titles, self-doubt showed up at every single stop, single stop. And so, I was thinking about the title and your platform of Slaying Self-Doubt. And I started thinking like, how have I done that? I tell you that what has saved me, I really do believe what has saved me and has saved my business and saved my career, when I was working 9 to 5, is at some point I just got this notion that I don't have to conquer my fear. Or I kept thinking like, oh, I gotta that's how self-doubt showed up for me. A lot of times it would show up as fear. Like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, something's gonna happen, it's not right. And what I learned is that I don't have to conquer her. I'm calling my fear her. We talk all the time.
Yes.
I don't have to conquer her. Sometimes I literally talk to her and say, look here, I'm about to go do this. I'm about to go do this podcast. I'm about to go teach this class. I'm about to go stand on the stage and talk to, 3,000 women. You can come with me, but I need you to be quiet.
I love that.
You can come, but I need you to shut up
Yeah.
because I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And
I-
I'm telling you, self doubt, oh my gosh, it has shown up so many times. One memory I have that won't let me go is I'm gonna go way, way, way back. I'm going way back to high school. I go into the school counselor's office. We go in there to find out about college and talk to the counselor about what we want to do.
Yeah.
And I loved math. I loved math. I just love numbers and figuring out things and building things. I love playing with like Legos and blocks and all that sort of thing. No
Mm.
wonder my son does. But anyway, um, and I went into the school counselor's office and I asked her, well, I told her, I said, I'm so excited about going to college. I'm applying for these colleges. I was getting accepted to colleges and I was ready. I said, I'm so ready for college. And she asked me, what are you going to major in? I said, I'm thinking I'm going to major in math, but I like psychology too. So I don't know, maybe I'll double major.
Mm.
She said to me, girls, that's not a good idea. Girls don't major in math.
When I first started posting on social media for the podcast, oh my goodness, it was a disaster. I did not know what I was doing. I was guessing at everything. Then things shifted for me when I got introduced to three platforms that changed the game for me. I started using Canva for my graphics, Caption Writer for my captions, and Wave for the audiograms. Seriously, if you go back to the beginning of the Slaying Self Doubt Instagram page, you will see the transformation. If you are in the process of branding or rebranding yourself, I recommend you try out these platforms. Canva has hundreds of templates that you can choose from to design any type of post you desire. Caption Writer allows you to create and save your captions with the perfect line breaks and even lets you add different fonts. Wave helps you create snippets of your content to share with your followers. They have closed captions and those cool little wavy lines. If you're interested in trying them out, click the links in the show notes to start using them today. Now, back to the show. Mm.
And I'm telling you, self doubt is an understatement. It just like sat on me like a ton of bricks. And I actually adopted her fear
Yeah.
as my own.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
that's a major thing. And I did not major in math because of that.
Wow. But you know what? The thing that stood out to me about that was that how easy it is that a lot of times it's not what we think about ourselves. It's
Right.
something that a little whisper of somebody else, an outside force, and another person having their own fears, that gets put onto them where they are feeling like they feel some type of way, so they say it to you, or they place an expectation on you that then puts you in an awkward place if that isn't what it is that you want to do. And I think about, even when you were talking about that, it made me think back to like high school as well, and like who the counselors would decide that they would put their energy into, and who they would decide, whether or not they're going to focus on this student because they're able to see their potential because it's maybe obvious or whatever, but not taking the time to look. And so then what does that do to these men and women, but specifically women, as in that learning phase, that age for us, right? Like when you're in high school and you're growing
Yes.
into your womanhood, like you take that with you of like, well, if she said I can't do that, then the next time something comes up and you say, I'm gonna do this, then that doubt comes up again. And now you're thinking, well, I probably can't do that either because that's not normal for girls to do, or that's not what women do, or whatever. And so then it just kind of continues to perpetuate this lie that we're not capable, and that we shouldn't do certain things, and that we shouldn't try. And just that one sentence.
Just that one statement. And
Mm,
it stuck with me. I mean, look at me now. I'm in my 50s and I'm still talking about something that
yeah.
happened when I was 17. So it stuck with me. And I'm happy to say I did go on to major in sociology and psychology and social psychology. And I had a wonderful college career. And but it stuck with me for
Yeah.
a long time. Even when I got opportunities to do something around math, I would clam up.
Mm.
And so fast forward, I think about my career. You know, I worked for the federal government for a long time. I've worked for private sector companies for a long time as well. And even there, like in my career, you know, constantly being told, oh, this is what you should do, this is the box that you should stay
Yeah.
in.
Mm.
And I know a lot of, you know, your listeners experience that as well. And I just want to encourage them to lean to their own understanding,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
own understanding, and not let people's fears get on you. I always say, you know, people will judge your dreams through the filter of their fears.
Yeah. That is so true.
Like that. So when you go to people like, oh, what do you think about this new idea? They're most likely going to answer you through the filter of their own fears. And
Yeah.
so I've become very intentional about people who I share my dreams with.
Yeah, no,
Very
that's
easy.
very true. And we've talked about that on the show before about um being aware of your circle and your community and knowing that
Oh,
as you go into certain things that
yeah.
may shift and that may change and those people may end up having to leave and they may end up not being on this journey with you, but that takes, some self-awareness, that takes some discernment. You just gotta pay attention to the signs. But when you say that, one of the other things that comes up oftentimes with self-doubt is some of it is self-sabotage, right? And we tell ourselves we can't. Like that was my thing. I would be like, I could talk myself out of anything.
Yes.
Like it did. If I was hungry, I'd be like, "You not really hungry. Like you ate 2 days ago. You are okay." Like it would be so crazy to be like, "Are you seriously like talking yourself out of
Yeah.
eating?" You know. But the thing about
Yes,
it,
I
yeah, but because it becomes a habit, right? It becomes what we do. It becomes what we know. It becomes how we kind of do things. That is just like, what the crap? But like you said, like whose filter it was it that spoke into us that allowed us to think that we were limited, to allow us to think that we only had to think this one type of way or we could only be in this box. And a lot of times when you're in corporate, you are in a box, right? And people
Oh my
are
goodness.
comfortable being in those boxes. And I know a lot of people, especially in my generation, we caught on a little bit late, but is that like we started out with this, your parents, your grandparents tell you, get yourself a good government job, you stay
Yep.
there and you get your retirement, you get your pension. And then as we started to grow, it's like, no, but there's more, right? And when you think, and I think
Yes.
about my parents, well, my father was an entrepreneur. So I didn't realize it then when I was a kid. I realized it now, like, oh no, I always knew he had his own business, but I didn't understand the importance of having the freedom of his time and being
Oh,
able to the good parts. There was some like there was the positive responsibility and having to pay people and having to let people go and all of those things, but I didn't understand the importance of it. And but my mom worked for the government, right? So she had
okay.
the good gut, so I was able to see both sides, and I didn't realize how that played a part of, like, yes, you want something security, right? But if your purpose for more, do the more. Don't let the security
More.
keep you stagnant. And there's so many people that I've witnessed who have blossomed out of their jobs, right? They have grown out of the jobs and they've gone walked into entrepreneurship or walked into the thing of their purpose, to take the job that is like, no, it may not pay me the same amount as this, but it brings me joy and they're fulfilled. And so and it started with a box, right? And saying,
Yes.
I used to tell my staff, like, some boxes have glass ceilings and some boxes have cement ceilings. When you start to hit that cement, you ain't going nowhere. That means you need to open the
Go
door.
out to the sides.
Right. Open a window and crawl out. That's what you need to do. And it's about just not being stuck in your own fear, or in like in the case you were saying, stuck in someone else's fear of making you feel like you cannot do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then the thing is, it's like, it's so important to, you talked about that tribe, and I call it my good vibes tribe. It's so important. I'm like, I keep talking about this, and I keep reminding myself
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important to surround ourselves with good people, people who will tell us the truth. We going
Yes.
all off track, like they will, snatch us back. But also
Yes.
people who will actually pour into us too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course, we're going to pour into ourselves. I know that, all those fierce women out there that listen to you, they're very strong and very self confident in their own right. But there is power in community,
Yeah.
so much power in community. So I learned very early on in my career that I better surround myself with some of these, badass women around here,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and I'm so grateful that I did. And those women, at one job, those women became my best friends. And
Yes.
yeah,
That is
I'm so
awesome.
glad I did that.
Yes. So, as we've talked about how self doubt has shown up from high school all the way up into now, what have you learned about yourself that you didn't know before? I told y'all, imposter syndrome is real. When I'm in those moments of doubt and anxiety, I ask myself, who's going to listen to you? Did God really call you to do this? Or, girl, ain't nobody trying to pay you to talk to them? These thoughts lead me to procrastination and being paralyzed by my fears and doubts. Throughout this journey of slaying my own self doubt, I have some tried and true practical steps that have helped me, and I would love to share them with you. Head on over to my website at www.feliciawallace.com and download the 5 ways to slay your self doubt. Now back to the show.
One of the things that I've learned is life is so much easier with surrender.
Mm, I just got goosebumps.
Ooh, me too. Me too. Like life is so much easier with surrender, and surrender is not giving up. Surrender to me is like leaning in. And
Mm,
I am very fortunate, very blessed, to have an anointing. I know that I've now accepted that about me, and my gifts in terms of like inspiring people to action and with momentum. Like that is a part of my gifts that I've been
yeah.
gifted. And forever I doubted it.
Mm.
I pushed it away. And I'm like, oh no, that light is too bright. No, 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 no.
Ooh.
I don't think
Ooh.
that's okay, because if that light is too bright, then other people are going to feel away because their light might not be as bright,
Mm.
or they're not in touch with their bright light. I
Yeah.
mean, so self-doubt was coming up in those type of ways. And what I've discovered is, Sophia, if you will just surrender to your gifts, just
Wow.
surrender to your gifts. Stop fighting the gifts. Just like literally lean into the gifts. I'm telling you, that was a game changer
Wow.
for my life. And then I'm still experiencing it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a serious game changer. And so because I surrendered and said, okay, I accept that these are my gifts. Like these are
Mm.
my gifts, and I'm purpose to use them. Then I noticed that things just naturally started coming to me, like opportunities started coming to me. I didn't have to relate to things as grinding, and it had to be
Yeah.
hard and, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I didn't have to experience that unless I chose to.
Yeah.
And when I was experiencing life like that, almost every single time, when I was experiencing life as like grinding and hard, it's because I hadn't surrendered, and it was
Mm.
because I was trying to control it.
Ooh.
I was trying to
Ooh.
control whatever it was, the project, the task, the goal, my
Yeah.
child, my
Right.
relationship, my marriage,
Listen.
trying to control, control, control. And we as women, I get it. We spend a lot of time trying to control things, I really believe, because there are so many things that have been taken from us, and
Mm.
control and power that attempts to take that from us. And so I get it, but I'm telling you, there is peace in surrender. So
Yeah.
that's my number one thing, is to surrender to your gifts.
Man, that was
Ooh,
Ooh, yes, it's definitely it definitely, like I said, brought me goosebumps. And as you were saying that, like I was having these thoughts of the times that I did surrender and really decided to trust, right? And when I decided to leave my job and say, okay, I'm really going to walk on faith, walk out on faith, step out on faith, and leave this comfortable job. And it wasn't a job I did not dislike. I enjoyed it, but God was, preparing me for more. That was easy. It was once I got into here and I was literally like, "Oh, okay, now I'm into entrepreneur. What do I do?" When you said that, trying to control it, it was harder, right? Because especially when you are working within your God-given gifts and your God-given purpose, he is the one who is directing your path. And so when you
yes,
feel that tension on the wheel, it's like that's because he's telling you to go left and you trying to go right. And so there is no, you guys aren't, it's like you're fighting for, that's how I've looked at it. Like I'm trying to fight for control over the one who knows it all. And how does that even make any sense, right? Because like even me saying it now is like, really? Like you thought you was going to win? Is that what you thought was going to happen? No, ma'am. That is not, it wasn't even going to happen.
all that time.
You're going to take your self down this detour, down this rocky road. And guess where you're going to end up? Right back where you started.
And now you done wasted some time getting back to the same
Yes.
spot.
And I have learned now, I'm just not operating out of order, Lord. Okay, where you want me to go? And I'm like, even in these moments of like what's next in my business, sometimes I just have to stop and I focus on what it is, that what's the last thing he told me to do, what's the last thing that I can do, with ease, what's the last thing I can surrender to. And I'm like, it's always the podcast. Like I can surrender to it because he's now shown me exactly how I'm supposed to use it, and I'm moving. It's the other thing that I'm like, okay, well, when you gonna tell me about that, because I'm still over here.
I'm still
Like
over here.
we gonna get through that. But when you say that, like total surrender, and it's hard, y'all. It is,
Ooh,
because clearly I haven't totally surrendered. Y'all already know. Like it's not an easy thing. And I think it's a daily surrender, right?
it's a
Because
daily
it might even
choice.
be moment to moment insert insert, because something could come up and you be like, you know
That's
what?
it.
You tell him, I got this. You know what? You take the day off.
That's it right there. It surrender is a daily choice.
Yeah,
A
it
moment,
is.
moment by moment.
Yeah, it
It,
really is.
it's a daily choice. And it's like, okay, what do? I choose to control this moment right here? What if I did surrender and
Mm.
trust? Because in order to really surrender, it requires a heck of a lot of trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all know the story. This podcast was an assignment from God that had my self doubt and limiting beliefs telling me that nobody would listen. But you, yes, you, kept showing up every week to listen to this podcast. And because you keep showing up, so do I. If you enjoy this podcast and would love to support me and future episodes, please consider making a donation by simply purchasing me a coffee. If you would like to donate, click the Buy Me a Coffee link. Now, back to the show.
What
Yeah.
if I just surrendered right here in this moment and I trusted that everything is for my good? Like everything is
All
working
of it.
out for my good. And I tell you, I'm saying it now, but I tell you, I have to work on it every single day because then that imposter syndrome, then that inner
Oh,
critic. I had called one of my inner critics, I named everything. I called one of my inner critic Irma, and then I have Howie, inner critic Howie, because Howie constantly asks, but how? But
mm,
how?
mm.
I know you want to move to the beach, but how are you going to do that? How are you going to
Yeah.
do that? You have a husband with medical issues. You got a son. You have a business. How are you going to do that? Oh, I know you want to start, launch this new course. How are you going to do it? How are you going to
Yeah.
do it? You have all these pieces. So Howie, I have to, first of all, just recognize
Mm.
that he is only doing his job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
his job is to keep me inside my comfort zone.
Hmm.
That's his job. So when I can relate to my inner critic like that, like, oh, you're just doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But guess
Yeah.
what? I don't need you.
Right. Yes.
I don't need you. I'm going to go do it anyway.
Yeah, that's really good because one of the things that we've been talking about lately is like really identifying your self-doubt and I did and
Oh,
calling a thing, right? Because a lot of times
yes.
prior to me going on this journey, I did not know what it was. I did not know what it was called. I did not know. I just knew how I felt, right? I felt
Yes.
anxious. I felt overwhelmed. I felt like I
Yes.
just wanted to go to sleep. I felt like I needed to lay down. Like I felt a certain type of way. But now that I'm in a place that I haven't named my inner critic, but I know what
Oh,
it
it's
is.
fun. It's
I
fun.
I ain't named it yet, but I know that when they show up, I just be like, not today, sis. We don't have time today. And I've told everybody previously that even doing these podcasts, like when I do these interviews, and even sometimes when I do my solo interviews, I don't always feel like doing it, or I may not feel like, is this the right thing to say? Is this conversation going to go well? Is this person going to be open? Whatever. And I say the same prayer every single time. Lord, remove any doubt, fear, or anxiety, and whatever your will is, that you do that. And so once I started to intentionally incorporate that into everything I do before I started, it has it that's a part of surrendering too, because he's asked us to give him our worries and our cares, give him our burdens. And
Oh,
so that's how I'm surrendering. Lord, you take it. Until this hour's up, until this 30 minutes is up, until this 45, whatever, however long time, you take it right now so that it's not on me
yeah.
while I'm actually doing. And I think that goes back to what you said before in the beginning of like, you can come with me, but you need to be quiet. Like
You
we
need to
going
be quiet.
you gonna do this together. You gonna watch me do this, okay?
Because I'm not going to spend my energy trying to get rid of you. Like,
Mhm.
it actually, it unnerves me to hear it because I hear it. Of course, we hear it all the time. Conquer your fear, conquer your fear. And I'm like, Lord, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Do I have to conquer it? And do I even have to conquer my self-doubt? I want to learn strategies
Mhm.
to quiet the self-doubt. And maybe I will actually slay it.
Right. Yeah.
But until I do, I just want to quiet it
And
down.
it's so crazy that you say that, because for those who have been on this journey, that's what we talked in the beginning. I used to say, you're gonna overcome your self doubt. Like that's what this was. This was a movement to empower women
Yes.
to overcome. And then at some point in time, I was like, you don't necessarily overcome it, because clearly I'm still doing it. And I was like, it's not about overcoming. It's about identifying, acknowledging, and accepting it, and
Yes.
doing it anyway. Like those are the things. But you have to know that, for me, I'm like, I had to know that for myself in order to even be able to do this, because every day that I show up is a part of me identifying, acknowledging, and accepting that yes, I have limiting beliefs. I have things that I feel insecure about, and I'm doing it anyway. And so that's why slaying self-doubt, it hit me one day doing a podcast. I was like, oh, it's an action. Like this is what we're doing, because we're actively slaying as we continue to go. You just have to identify what you're slaying. That's really what it boils down
Yes. I just got a picture of like I don't know, almost like an animated something where you're right there and you're walking down a path and you have a sword in each hand and you're literally
to.
slaying
Yes.
the self-doubt. And I saw all these words coming around you like doubt and imposter syndrome and
Yeah.
inner critic and Howie and
Yes, yeah. And when the first time when I said it, like it literally is like an aha moment, like in the
oh
middle
yeah.
of the podcast. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that. But this is the thing. I'm very clear that this didn't come from me. So it wasn't my thing. So the Lord gave it to me years ago. And it was like, oh. So
Oh,
so that's what you
oh.
meant. That's what you meant. I got it. It was
Oh,
literally like I didn't even get it. I just thought it was cool. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Lord told me to use it. That's what I'm gonna use, and we're gonna go from there. So,
here it
uh,
is, full circle.
yeah, it was like what the crap? Like this is. It's really happening right here live. Y'all seen
Oh
it.
yeah, it's happening.
Yes.
It's
So
happening.
let us talk about all things Coach Sophia. Like where I can see you, they can't, but you have your shirt that says ease and flow, and I know all about that.
Always.
Your book, Fierce Vulnerability, your mentor coaching, like all the things. Let's talk about all the things that you're doing. Y'all, becoming a full time entrepreneur isn't for the faint of heart. And sometimes I get so wrapped up in building this business that I literally forget about basic things like grocery shopping. That's why I started using Instacart. Instacart is the go to service for quick and effective grocery delivery. Now, I know what you're thinking. I don't want people shopping for me. I don't want nobody touching my fruit. Trust me, I know exactly how you feel. I used to be the same way. But when I think about the effort it takes now to go grocery shopping, no, thank you. When you are a customer of Instacart, you select your groceries from the store of your choice. Then a personal shopper does the shopping and delivers it right to your doorstep. You cannot get any better than that. If you have never tried Instacart, trust me, you will not regret it. Click the link in the show notes and get $10 off your first order today. Now, back to the show.
Yes, I am so grateful, so very grateful. My first book was a is actually a journal called the Ease and Flow Journal, and I will tell you, like, God gave me that.
Mm,
It came at a very very tumultuous time. My husband, which I talk about all the time, my husband unfortunately suffered major medical setbacks related to a stroke and a brain.
mm,
And as I was there in the hospital, sitting in that hard recliner
right.
next to him, I just, I was calling out to God, and I said, I need something. I need to take all the stuff that's in my head and all these feelings that are in my heart,
Yeah.
because I couldn't articulate what I was going through. And I'm like, what do I do? And I always like to journal. So I was like, okay, you know, do I write it down? But what I found is that all these journals just had blank pages. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, no, no. I can't articulate it right now. So I need somebody to ask me some questions. And
Yeah.
and then right there in the hospital, in about 5 hours, I created this journal of just asking questions and
Mm,
asking the reader questions so that they can answer those journal prompts and just keep writing and keep writing.
yeah.
So that really, really saved me through this journey with my husband. And then fast forward, so the whole platform was ease and flow, ease and flow. And I'm clear now. I'm getting more and more clear, right, around why he gave me ease and flow as a brand, because that's what I needed.
Mm,
Because there was
yeah.
so many things that were hard and difficult
Yeah.
decisions, and so much going on that I needed some ease and flow in my life. And then fast forward, he said to me, that book that you wrote 4 years ago, I need you to publish that book. And I'm like, right now. And at the time, I was doing pretty well, rebuilding my business. And I had a lot going on with corporate training. And I'm like, right now, put this book out. And I'm so glad I listened.
Mm,
Fierce Vulnerability, A Color Girl's Truths, Trials, and Triumphs is a fiction book about four affluent Black women in the DMV, as we call it,
yes.
DMV area, and just a peek into their journey of how they struggle with balancing, bringing all that fierceness with also their willingness or unwillingness to be vulnerable and practice
Mm,
vulnerability and share the truth of what's on their hearts. So I'm like, why now? And now it makes sense. It wasn't for me to write it or publish it 4 years ago. This was the perfect time. And one of the characters in the book, Ava, is running for political office. And so a lot of people think I wrote this book because of Vice President Kamala Harris and all the wonderfulness and celebration around her. But I'm like, no, I wrote this 4 years ago. I was just told to birth it right now for such
wow.
a time as this. And so our publishing company, Tandem Light Press, the marketing director, Lee Ashby Watts, said, Sophia, this is not just a book. This is a movement.
Mm,
And I'm telling you, she was right. It is a movement because just the title, Fierce Vulnerability, has opened up so many conversations. Like
Yeah.
every month I'm having a panel discussion where I have panelists, and yes, I'm getting Felicia as one of those panelists. But just the women and men coming together to talk about the concept of fierce vulnerability and what gets in our way of practicing that. And the conversations have been incredible conversations. And I'm so very, very grateful. And so now I understand why the timing, like he gave me the timing for now, because the book debuted as the #1 new release for dramas and plays by women on Amazon. I've never
Yes.
written a fiction book ever.
Oh man, congratulations. That is so amazing. And you are so right. When you think about the title, just the title of it, right? So I'm going to have to get the book. So thinking about just the title of it, like we are told to be fierce, right? Like I think when you say
All
that,
the
I
time.
have an auntie who always says like fierce child, fierce, right? Like she's just, that is her saying. Whenever she sees somebody, and especially when she sees somebody with a red lip, yes, she is fierce. You see her with a red lip, fierce, fierce. That is her word, right? But the vulnerability side is the part that we like, and I don't want to do that. No, I don't
Oh,
want
I
to.
won't do
I don't
that
want to be
part.
vulnerable with you. I don't want to be. I'm not willing to show that side of me. I'm not willing to be vulnerable, but to certain people and to a certain
Yes.
extent, even on top of that, right? And I think having those two together, yeah, I'm gonna have to read the book because I really need to know like what happens because I'm excited
Woo!
to like find out, especially because it's front day. You talk about women from the area, this
Oh,
this
yes. I had to give props to my DM, even though I grew up in South Central LA, was there most of my young life. I'm now in the DMV area, so I had to give my props to my
Yes, yes, yes. No, that is so y'all already know she just told y'all it's on Amazon, so definitely get the book. And is the journal on Amazon as well?
Yes, they
Yep,
both were
journal
there.
and the book on Amazon, y'all. So if you want fierce vulnerability and you want ease and flow in your life, okay,
Hey.
go ahead. It is right there. Thank you so much, Coach Sophia, for being with us today. I knew this
So,
conversation was going to be amazing. I said in the beginning, like, I knew that the Lord put me with you for a purpose, and it wasn't just to be my mental coach.
it
And I
wasn't
am
just about class.
Yes, it wasn't just about class. And I'm so, so grateful for what you pour into me. I'm so grateful for your genuineness, right? Like that is such a because that's a job. Like you could have just been working and doing what you needed to do and moving on to the next class, right after our course, mine was 6 months, then another class starts again, and for you to intentionally like connect and take time with not only me but the other students, like that's a big deal and it is very much so appreciated. So I
Um,
wanted to publicly thank you.
I am so very grateful. You are welcome. It is truly it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to show up and use my gifts,
Yeah.
and it's easy. It's
Yeah.
ease and flow because I surrendered and stepped all the way into it, and I get the gifts back by being with you and being with, powerful and fiercely vulnerable women like you and students like you. And so I am just so grateful.
Oh,
So
you are welcome. Thank you so much. So how can people connect with you?
yeah, it was really easy. I'm Coach Sophia Casey everywhere, but my website is sophiacasey.net. I say as in net worth.
I know that's right. I know that's right. And y'all know all of this information will be in the show notes so y'all can get connected with her. Again, Coach Sophia, thank you so, so much. I truly appreciate it.
The pleasure's mine. Thank you, Felicia.
You're welcome. All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.